The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Hey, a movie! Yeah, we're gonna be a movie!
Starring everybody
And me! There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Hey, a movie! We can watch it all develop. Starring everybody!
And me! We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in! We're gonna start right here!
And we are going to start right here. Hello. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, triple feature. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight on the marquee, we've got a trio of Guy Ritchie movies. First, Operation Fortune, starring Jason Statham. Second, Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, not to be confused with just The Covenant, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. And finally, Snatch, starring an incomprehensible Brad Pitt, also Jason Statham. And joining me in the movie theater for this triple feature is the one and only Dungeon Master, currently crinkling potato chips again.
I'm moving them out of the way.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Cashews.
Ronnie Adams of the Screaming Boy podcast. How do you do, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So, you and I talked about getting in some more podcasts this year. Nothing that was particularly, that had to be done by a certain time, just kind of whenever we felt the urge. And I'll tell you, Guy Ritchie, this Operation Fortune movie got delayed like 97 times. So it was one where when it finally came on, when it finally came on PVOD, I was like, okay, I really want to watch this and talk about it. The Covenant also just came out this year. This one I don't think was delayed like Operation Fortune was. Operation Fortune not only was delayed, but also had a name change. Like there was all kinds of production issues with this movie. But the Covenant came out this year and it got pretty good reviews. I was like, okay, well, that's two Guy Ritchie movies. And then I never saw the big two from Guy Ritchie. And then going back, and we're going to talk about Guy Ritchie in just a moment, but going back over his filmography, like the big two that seemed to have gotten him attention and won favor, especially with, the indie bros, was Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. So before we get into who is this man, Guy Ritchie, how did you come to Guy Ritchie?
It was back in the day. I was just in the habit of buying any DVD I could. And I ran across Snatch, which I had heard from a couple of people that was an incredible movie. So I was like, I'll just buy it. That's kind of how I fell along, the Boondock Saints and a couple of other movies like that. So I bought it, and I really, really, really enjoyed Snatch. So I ended up buying Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrel, Layer Cake, just about any Guy Ritchie thing I could get a hold of for a little bit, and just watching it. And I've always liked Guy Ritchie, just his style and everything. But after a while, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, that's about right. That tracks.
I tell you, triple feature is fast becoming like the director survey. The director focus. A week or so ago, Sean and I did Wes Anderson. We looked at Asteroid City and
I'm sorry, I did.
you control yourself.
Very knee-jerk reaction there.
And the Royal Tenenbaums. And what's fun about doing these director focuses is it really gets me to watch movies that, for whatever reasons, escaped me. It's weird because like my indie movie viewing tends to go either like The Avengers or this, like Irreversible or like what is it, the Nude on the Moon, El Fuego. It's something. Who the fuck has ever heard of this? There's no in between with me. So like the a lot of the popular indie bro movies I never watched. Like to this day I still haven't watched the bowling movie that everyone loves, or the Big Lebowski.
Big Lebowski.
Yeah, I still haven't watched the Big Lebowski. I still haven't watched Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Like there's a bunch out there that like everyone has watched except me. So I wanted to take these opportunities to kind of go back and watch some of these. So that's what I did with Wes Anderson and Rushmore and the Royal Tenenbaums, because I'd never seen him before. Same thing here with Guy Ritchie. It was like, okay, well, I want to watch these 2 new movies of his and I want to review them, but I also want to go back and watch. And I kind of gave you the choice between Lock, Stock, and Two. Actually, I gave you the choice of any Guy Ritchie movie, and you picked Snatch in particular. You could have picked. You could have picked The Man from U.N.C.L.E. You could have picked Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. You could have picked Rock and Rolla. You chose Snatch. Why did you want to show me your Snatch, Ronnie Adams?
Oh my gosh. Why do I keep coming on here?
I have no idea.
I'm kidding, man.
You knew what this was when you entered into this relationship, Ronnie.
I know. You look good, by the way. I meant to tell you that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm trying to forget the last 2 years ever happened, so I figured let me start with my face.
Okay. Well, my new face is on the screen right now. I can't see it live at the moment, but that's my new face. I like the shirt, by the way, Dr. Teeth. But anyway, I chose Snatch because that was my gateway into Guy Ritchie. But if you look at the movie Snatch, it is just, well, I hate to say it like this, but there's so much talent in that movie that it's stupid.
It is like the Guy Ritchie players, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. You've got Statham, Brad Pitt, Vinnie Jones, but Brad Pitt in this movie, and Benicio del Toro as Frankie Four Fingers.
It is easy to accuse Brad Pitt of not being a good actor based on some of the things he's chosen to do, but you cannot deny
this.
But you cannot deny him. You cannot deny how good of an actor he is when you see him in this. He is brilliant and hilarious.
And my favorite out of the whole group is Alan Ford as Bricktop.
Okay, yeah.
Just because he's menacing with looking like a grandpa.
Yeah.
But the whole movie, mostly, I will have to say it's mostly for Brad Pitt's performance in this. Okay. Because it is incredible. But the whole movie all around is I've always liked, my dog is going nuts right now. Stop!
Is it your favorite Guy Ritchie? Is that what this was all about?
Yeah, I'm going to say, it is my favorite Guy Ritchie, right up there with Lock, Stock.
Okay. So why not, when I pitched this idea to you, why Snatch and not Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels?
Well, I favor this over Lock, Stock.
Okay.
But just because I'm a heist, they're both kind of heist movies. Guy Ritchie is the heist movie guy.
I was going to say, like that's not helping your case at all.
Right, he is all heist movie all the time. But this one, I guess because it really just kind of opened my eyes up to the independent film and independent.
You never forget your first. It's your first guy, you never forget your first.
Right.
Okay.
Reaching beyond the studios that I was aware of in the movie theater. Yeah. And the only thing I really knew of Jason Statham at that point, did I know? What was he in before that? Surely The Transporter wasn't before that.
I'd have to look. But Leah, let's get into who Guy Ritchie is. So Guy Ritchie, born September 10th, 1968, is an English film director, producer, and screenwriter. His work includes British gangster films and the Sherlock Holmes film starring Robert Downey Jr. Also, he was responsible for the Disney remake of Aladdin. More on that in a moment. Ritchie left school at age 15 and worked entry-level jobs in the film industry before going on to direct television commercials. In 1995, he directed a short film, The Hard Case, followed by the crime comedy Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, his feature-length directorial debut. He gained recognition with the second film, Snatch, which found critical and commercial success. Following Snatch, Ritchie directed Swept Away, which nearly killed his career. Critically panned. Yeah, that's the one with Madonna. A critically panned box office bomb starring Madonna, to whom Ritchie was married. Yeah. Don't put your wives in movies, people. It never goes well. He went on to direct Revolver and Rock and Rolla, which were less successful and received mixed reviews. And then in 2009, 2011, he knocked it out of the park and hit the blimp with Sherlock Holmes and the sequel, Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. Those I did see.
Yeah, those are amazing.
The former was nominated for Academy Award for Best Original Score and Best Art Director. He directed films like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, which we reviewed here, Disney's Aladdin, which we reviewed here. And yeah, that one grossed over $1 billion worldwide, becoming one of the highest grossing films of 2019, in which every movie in the top 10 made over $1 billion. Jesus Christ. He returned to crime with The Gentleman, which we reviewed on here when it was PVOD during the lockdown. And then he returned with Wrath of Man, which Robert and I reviewed on here, and it was like one of our favorite movies of 2021.
It was so good.
And now he's got Operation Fortune and The Covenant, and I kind of want to go through these with you. Which ones have you seen? Which ones you haven't seen? So, I have not seen Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I've heard it's amazing.
I haven't seen The Covenant or Operation Fortune.
Well, we're not there yet.
I'm kidding.
Wow, it just took me a minute to say what you just said. We're going to talk about Snatch. I have not watched Swept Away, though I've heard it is laughably bad.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
It's parts of it, just because I'm a Guy Ritchie fan. But it's foul.
Okay.
I
Revolver.
was ashamed of Bruce Greenwood. I said Bruce Greenwood. That was weird.
Have you?
But yeah, Revolver. I actually own that movie.
Okay. What do you think of Revolver?
Because it was a Guy Ritchie movie, and it had Jason Statham and Ray Liotta. It was good. It was good. It was not like, it's not going to be world stopping, but Luc Besson wrote it. And it was I liked it, actually.
Okay. So we got then Rock and Rolla.
Yeah, that one was a weird one for me.
Why was it weird?
If I remember it, it's very stylistic. I can't remember.
Well, all his stuff is stylistic. It's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. Was
not like stylistic. I guess what I'm going for is, like, I'm thinking the wrong thing. This had that had Idris Elba in it, didn't it? Rock and Rolla. Yes, it had Gerard Butler and Idris Elba.
Okay.
No, I actually like this one too. Tom Hardy, and who's the dude that was in Jeremy Piven?
Yes. Jeremy Piven.
So
most famous for his role in PCU and Entourage. So the next two are the ones where, like I said, other than The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the next couple, like, he really hits it big with, the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. And A Game of Shadows. And that's a good place to stop, because one of the things that makes Guy Ritchie is the quintessential, like, Guy Ritchie style is, like, the quick camera movements. The
smash cuts.
The smash cuts and swish camera. To where, like, he's focused on, let's say, Jason Statham, and then woof, and he quickly moves the camera. And there's, like, it's not really a cut so much as it is just a quick movement of the camera.
Quick movement,
something else. Yeah. He definitely is overly reliant on narration. There's usually a point of view character kind of telling you what's going on in the movies. His movies are very, like, movie. They're very stylized. Like, some guys, some directors will try to fool you into thinking you're not watching a movie, and, like, really, like, put you there, and you're like, oh my God, I can kind of feel like I'm in this situation, I'm in the scenario. And then there are other directors that are very much like, no, this is art, and I want you to know that it's art, so I'm going to do it very artsy like. And Guy Ritchie tends to be the latter, not the former. Obviously he tends to focus on the British culture, and a lot of guys speaking Cockney, that sort of thing. He tends to kind of leave a lot of threads out there, and then you kind of follow each one of these threads, and then he eventually weaves them together, and, oh, look, you have a nice little tapestry by the end of the movie. That's kind of the Guy Ritchie signature style.
Well, it kind of starts out as a plate of spaghetti, and then as you eat through it, then it looks like it's, like, oh, hey, there's a picture underneath all this.
Right.
And I actually even like King Arthur, his take on King Arthur. It was good. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like it's definitely eye candy for the ladies with all the guys in it and everything.
Yes,
but
on that movie.
Yeah, but I mean, he goes from so the narration, the swoosh cuts, and the I mean, just there's only one person that can make a movie that looks like that, and it is Guy Ritchie. And do you remember the SNL
I was gonna say there's not too many. No, I don't remember the SNL skit.
There was an SNL skit where they got who's the British comedian that was get him to the Greek and
Russell Brand.
Yeah, Russell Brand was on there with Bill Hader. And they were all like, it's just them speaking overblown, just nonsense Cockney to each other. And it was like it's a Guy Ritchie movie. He's like, where you go, here you are. And then like Russell Brand was like, just like making noises at one point.
Later on, when I put this on TikTok, I can't wait for the translator to figure out what the hell you just said.
I'm here to please, sir. I'm here to please. But it's just like I was like every bit of that is Guy Ritchie, and I think the movie was called "Free Go Down to the Rero."
That sounds great.
Yeah, so I was like, actually, I'd watch that. But
okay, so
that's just who I was at that time.
Yeah, so the Sherlock Holmes movies are what's great about them are they're crowd pleasers. They're great. Oh, yeah. They're great action adventure mystery movies.
Money makers, man.
Money makers, kung fu fighting movies with a great actor in Robert Downey Jr. in 2009, 2011. He's like at the height of his power. He's at the height of his reborn powers. And they make shit tons of money. And it's like, okay, Guy Ritchie's on the map now. And then they give him the Man from U.N.C.L.E. and that bombs. They can't win them all. He starts to come back with King Arthur: Legends of the Sword. If I remember correctly, Robin and I didn't really hate the movie. I keep confusing.
It's just there.
I keep confusing it with the gritty reboot of Robin Hood with Taron Egerton, where he's like using a bow and arrow as kind of a machine gun.
Oh my gosh, that movie was so terrible.
Yeah, but the King Arthur: Legend of the Sword one, I think we gave pretty good reviews to. But the one I really want to talk about is Aladdin, because
that's where I was going. You got all these, and then you just boom, Aladdin.
Well, Aladdin is his first shot at a musical, which I think is fantastic. We did not beat up too much on Aladdin. I mean, we beat up on certain things like the feminist song that they just threw in there for shits and giggles.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Alexis and Robert beat up on the ending of the movie where, instead of having like a big giant snake like you do in the cartoon, they just made Iago bigger. There was a missed opportunity to do a really big, exciting ending, and they kind of botched it. But along the way, as far as like a kind of a mock Bollywood musical, with Aladdin as the animated Aladdin movie as your structure, I love it. I think it's one of the best ones they've ever done.
Well, I'm not big on these quote unquote live action remakes.
Sure.
Not for any other reason other than I'm a classic guy. I like the classics. I like the animated. Loved this. Thought Will Smith crushed it. Of course, he can't sing worth anything, and they absolutely
they really should have just let him rap. They really just made him rap.
But for what it was, but what he did, I thought he did fantastic.
He was, what he kind of reminded me of, and I don't remember if I said it back then when we reviewed it, but he kind of reminded me of like Richard Pryor's take on the Wizard in The Wiz. Where it's like let's, and I really feel like they should have leaned into that more, if you get my drift. Will Smith brought that hip hop soul to the Genie character, because if he had tried, and I think I did say this at the time, if he had tried to do Robin Williams, it would not have worked. People would have burned the theater down.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad he went a different way with it.
But he instead kind of brought his kind of Will Smithy flavor to it, and Will Smith again, soul. He's got that hip hop, that completely sanitized like hip hop cred.
Yeah.
And he brought that
Bad
to the
Boys.
Genie. And I honestly think like they should have like gone full into it. Like I feel like they held Will Smith back. They should like no, like go full Prince of Bel-Air on this. But for what they gave us, I thought Aladdin really hits it out of the park.
Yeah. I mean, how did we get onto this? But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Out of all of these, come on, Lion King is not one bit live action. It's all animated.
I was going to say, have you heard us talk about during the Little Mermaid review where we just ripped Lion King to shreds?
It's just stupid.
Yeah, but like you're not going to get any argument out of me on that.
Right.
Like I think we said Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast were like the best two, and then Aladdin is kind of like the second best, and then after that it's all trash.
Yeah. So and like Emma Watson in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
she was great. She really sang that, right? So those are good, but Aladdin to me is the best one. But I mean, and it's not at all a freaking Guy Ritchie movie at all.
No, but I love. But it definitely was one of those where like, okay, you're obviously a talented director. Could you just be talented and not be you? And that's Aladdin.
What?
Like, hey, we know that you can do other stuff. Like let's say you stretch as a director. That's one of the things I love about Aladdin, knowing the Guy Ritchie style, because again, up to this point, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Rock and Rolla, Sherlock Holmes, King Arthur, and there's like, okay, we get it. We know what you can do. Be good and really give us like a crazy Bollywood musical bouncing off the screen, colors popping Aladdin, and like let's get Jason. Don't put Jason Statham in it, okay? No kicking people. And I think he knew the assignment and he nailed it.
Yeah.
The gentleman.
Okay, let me just say, Jason Statham as the genie, though.
I want to be a prince, and I want to win over the princess, and he just kicks him.
He just hauls off and roundhouse kicks him, and he's like, "Well, you got your knickers in a bunch full," whatever he says, and
Jafar's like, "I want to be the sultan," and Jason just kicks him,
just knocks him out. No, love it, man.
Gentleman had to be one of my favorite movies of the year whatever year it was that we reviewed it when it was on PBOD.
Good, wasn't it?
I love The Gentleman. First of all, that was responsible for like half of my Markisms for the following year because I kept doing like Hugh Grant in that movie. So I'm called. Oh my god, I was like fop gay menacing for a whole year because of the Gentleman. There was a running gag about like Hugh Grant and The Gentleman was my spirit animal for a while.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong.
Yeah, you were present to some of that. I love The Gentleman. The Gentleman is like, it goes back to the Guy Ritchie style again. It was like, hey, are you missing Guy Ritchie? Well, here's The Gentleman. And it's great. It's a fantastic movie. I think Robert and I, in a year where the lockdowns were happening and there weren't a lot of movies to review, like that one was a high point. And it was followed by Wrath of Man in 2021. Again, we're coming out of the lockdown. Movies are back in theaters again. Some movies are day and date, PVOD. Wrath of Man was one of those that kind of snuck in there in the month of May. I think
I remember going to see that with my father.
Yeah, I remember. Like, I think that was like Black Widow had abandoned its date in May, and Wrath of Man took it, and so we ended up reviewing Wrath of Man, and it was like one of our favorite movies of that year. I know, like you hate Robert, he's still like overly critical, and I know like we together, as you like to say, oh, there used to be both honey and vinegar, and now there's just vinegar.
There's just lava.
Well. On the occasion that Robert and I heap praise on something, it does happen, and Wrath of Man was one of them. Like, we had nary a bad thing to say about Wrath of Man, and that is also a very Guy Ritchie movie.
Yeah, okay. But I just like
You're struggling. Why are you struggling with Wrath of Man? What bothers you about it?
I'm not. I don't think I'm struggling with anything. I just don't think it gets the praise that it deserves half the time. And I don't remember you all giving it that much praise.
I just said the two harshest critics on earth thought it was amazing.
Oh, no. And I agree with that. And that's why I'm struggling, because I don't remember you all doing that. I think I avoided your all's review because of that.
Well, Jesus, Ronnie. Like, here's Robert and I jerking a movie off. I don't want to watch. I only want to watch when you hate things and then hate you for it.
No. I avoided it because I thought you all were going to hate it, and I loved it so much.
Oh, okay. No, go back and watch our review of it. Like let's pause the podcast, go back and come back. And yeah, that was one of the, because it's such a rare thing when it happens. When we both agree on something, we both like it. It's almost like, and then, the world is reborn and flowers bloom. It's amazing. It's like, it's like the fucking Genesis bomb in Star Trek. And that brings us to the movies we're going to talk about tonight, Operation Fortune and Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. So let's get into Operation Fortune. Operation Fortune Ruse De Guerre is a 2023 spy action comedy film directed by the aforementioned Guy Ritchie and written by Ritchie, Ivan Atkinson, and Mon Davies. The film stars Jason Statham, Aubrey Plaza, Josh Hartnett, Carrie Elways, Bugsy Malone, and Hugh Grant. The film was about a spy, Austin Fortune, who must retrieve a stolen high-tech device before an arms dealer, Grant, can sell it to the highest bidder. It was theatrically released in international territories on January 4th of 2023 and theatrically released for 5 minutes in the U.S. on March 3rd. If you blinked, you missed it. It was released digitally on Amazon Prime and in the United Kingdom on April 7th. It was a $50 million budget. It made $37.9 million. But like I said, like this thing, I think principal photography commenced January of 2021. It was originally known as Five Eyes, and then it was renamed and then delayed. It was punted more times than a fucking Jets football game. It was ridiculous. Honestly, I pulled that one out of my ass. I don't know how often it punt.
I don't either, but that was really good.
Somewhere out there, Jets fans like, fuck you. All right.
I'll never listen to this show again.
So, Operation Fortune, we have one of the things I liked about this is I do enjoy a protagonist that's like vulnerable in some way or kind of quirky. Jason Statham is a sort of carny ne'er-do-well mercenary who keeps taking advantage of the agency that he works for by claiming mental health issues. But he's not but he's not a fop about it. He's not kind of a pansy who, when you tweak his nipples a certain way, then he suddenly comes kung fu fighting. No, he's an asshole who's rigging the system so that he can get good wine and free trips. That's amazing. Right. What a take on this kind of character.
I've struggled to think of any other. I can't think of any movie that has anything like that. And the only thing I could think of was Bullet Train with Brad Pitt, but he was doing something different. He was trying to take care of his mental health. Mm-hmm. And this guy's just a dick.
Like, listen, we need you to come in. We have a job for you. I'm on holiday. Like, what? Like really, it's an interesting take on the reluctant hero.
Right? Yeah. Like, I don't really want to.
Yeah, and again, after you watch so many of these movies, it gets a little stale, a little boring to see the same kind of guy.
This was an absolute delight to see. Like, and it's kind of a different character for Jason Statham too.
Yeah. Because again, he's not reluctant because of guilt. He's not reluctant because a job went bad and now he has PTSD. No, he's reluctant because I just don't want to. I want to drink wine and be on holiday. I'm so bored by the whole like I'm kind of doing a foppish impression of him, but that's the aura he gives off. Like honestly, Jason Statham in this movie could kick me to China from Valrico.
Right.
But okay. And so he's a badass. Don't get me wrong. He's not Hugh Grant from The Gentleman, but he's definitely got this. I want to be on holiday.
It proves that he's got some chops.
Yeah, I kind of gave
a
Jason
little
Statham
bit.
some shit in the Meg. I was just like, they don't really, and it's like I didn't mean to say he couldn't act. It's just no one asked Jason Statham to do any acting. They're just like,
Well, no,
scowl at the camera and kick stuff. And here,
legitimately,
like Guy Ritchie knows how talented he is, and he gets to act.
Well, as he's coming up in movies and stuff, the Transporter, he surprised everybody with how much, with with how much skill he has in martial arts and things, and fighting and everything. But if you legitimately, when he's coming up into the movies and people are hiring him, they say, "Hey, why don't we hire this guy? Wasn't he in the Uwe Boll movie? Or U-Boll, or however you want to say his name? I don't know how you say his name.
Yeah,
he's a hack." It's like he was. What was that movie called? And it was just. I still watch it because he's in it, but it's just a wretched movie. Just disgusting. It's just terrible. Okay. And then he turns around to Spy. Ugh, what's wrong with you?
The point being, they don't ask Jason Statham to do a lot. They're like, again, scowl, look at the camera, mumble peg, and then like Guy Ritchie's like, I can get more out of you, and and no wonder Jason Statham loves doing Guy Ritchie movies because oh my god, I can stretch as an actor. He had to have showed up for the Meg too, and was like, what do you want me to do? Punch a shark? Yeah. Of course. Do you want? What's my motivation? The shark needs punching. Ugh, I wish I were dead.
So just real quick, let's look at his movies up till then. I mean, Snatch and Lock, Stock, he can act in that, but he's doing basically the same shady British character.
Right.
The Transporter, I'm not saying the one, Ghosts of Mars. I forgot he was even in that.
Okay, I'm going to help you and just pull up his filmography.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm just pulling up the ones that I recognize. Collateral as Airport Man. Cellular, which was with Chris Evans.
He's in The Italian Job, which we reviewed on here. He was in Revolver.
The Italian Job was after Transporter and Transporter 2 and Cellular.
He's in Crank. That's the one everyone knows.
That's okay. Right. So you go in through this, and you go to Revolver, you go to Chaos, and he was uncredited in the Pink Panther apparently, and then he hit Crank. And then I think that's where it kind of was. He was like, I think I'll do anything as long as they'll pay me a sandwich or something. And then he did it in the Name of the King. I don't know if he had some back taxes he had to do or take care of or something. But he literally started poor Ron Perlman and Ray Liotta were in this too. And oh my gosh, I just pulled it up. John Rhys Davies. Matthew Lillard, yeah, that tracks. But it's a terrible movie. And then he started coming back with War, and then The Bank Job,
right,
and then Death Race, and he just kept going.
Yeah, he is definitely one of those actors where Hollywood kind of pigeonholes him, but he is lucky that people see. Everyone knows he's a pretty girl, but it turns out he's also talented. And so for the people who have an eye for talent, they're just like, we get that you're pretty, but we need you for more than that. And he's just like, oh, thank God, because I really wish people would like me for more than just my body.
Homefront was a great action movie with very little martial arts and stuff. And he actually got to do a little bit of acting in it. Because it's a Stallone movie.
So going back to this movie, he's great in this, but he is definitely supported by great characters and great, Aubrey Plaza. So Aubrey Plaza is
You're an Aubrey Plaza fan, though.
Am I? Yeah, I am. I like Aubrey Plaza. Yeah, no, I love Aubrey Plaza. I think she's great. Aubrey Plaza always I remember her from when Jesse and I reviewed Legion, where she was quirky and over the top and just all over the place. This one, she's a little bit more subdued, but I like her subdued. I also was gonna say she plays the comms girl. She's the girl behind the computer. She's she's the what's his nuts character from Mission Impossible, the British guy.
Simon Pegg.
Yes, she's the Simon Pegg character from the Mission Impossible movies. So, and what's great about the way that she's used in this movie is she's one of those like, oh, Ricky, take me, take me to the show, Ricky. She wants to be in the field. She wants to be Jason Statham, and it's like, all right, well, let's see how you do. And they treat her with a degree of seriousness, where it's like, the arc of the movie is kind of this whole team is sort of like thrown together because the guy they normally use, who turns out to be the villain, is on another job. He's Mr. Black, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So there's like a lot. So like Jason Statham's working with new people whom he doesn't really trust, and then he sees the skirt, and he's just like, I don't really trust you. And she's like, no, I'm competent, trust me. But she's not shrill about it, and she's just enough woman that a girl could watch this and go, I like this character. This character appeals to me. But she's not a shrill bitch to where men look at her and go, I hate you. You remind me of my wife or my ex-wife. So she's just the right level. She's just the right pitch for that character. And I think, again, she's subdued, she's subtle, but I think she does a really great job of this. And then they get her doing, stuff that, and again, I have this problem with like some like Gal Gadot stuff and some other, big time, big, strong women movies where they have them doing things where if in real life they would get killed by the men in the movie, but because they're women and it's Hollywood, they can somehow kick a bunch of men's asses. It's like, that's not really what you want women for, in those scenarios where, it's equal bodies fighting each other. Instead, they have Aubrey Plaza like using her cunning, and they have her like playing a femme fatale, and she's going covert and things like that, like things you would want a dainty woman to do, not fighting, not Scarlett Johansson fighting a room full of men.
Right, she cleans up good in that red dress.
Oh, she does. That's another thing. It's like Aubrey Plaza is an attractive woman. Don't get me wrong, and there's no body shaming here, but not like my other podcast. But she's not the first person I think of when I think of like who's sexy in Hollywood that we can throw in a fancy
dress. What do we know her from? The most popular thing we know her from is from Parks and Rec. Where
I don't even watch Parks and Recs.
Oh, okay. So I can tell because you called it Parks and Recs. Like it's just part like it's a park with a bunch of.
Do you remember that time that we reviewed the Communities?
Oh gosh, I want to vomit on you right now.
Not on the first date.
Oh no, brother! This ain't our first rodeo. Come here, let me love on you a little.
So, some stuff that I've seen her in: Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I've seen her in.
Straighten that.
She's a voice in Monsters University. Let's see. I've heard she's awesome in Ingrid Goes West. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard she's amazing in it.
Not seen that.
And Emily the Criminal. I've heard she's amazing in that as well. And yeah, I think I've seen her more in like her television stuff. Like again, I watched her in all 3 seasons of Legion. I know she was a voice on Crank Yankers, which the ones that she's on always crack me up. So okay, you were saying.
Well, I mean, I know her as April Woodgate.
Okay.
I don't want to do it. Kind of like one of those things.
Yeah.
And so the whole reason that Ron Swanson hired her as his assistant is because she doesn't do anything.
That's great.
And she doesn't schedule meetings for him. And he's like, I love her, in this position. So she's hired. She doesn't, it's because she scheduled everything for April 31st or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, whatever it was. And he's like, and then he had 119 meetings one time on the 31st of the month because she thought it was only 30 days. And, but it's just like, I'm used to her just being like, just the snarky, smart alecky, I guess I love you, boyfriend kind of girl. I don't see her as a femme fatale.
I think she's known for her quirkiness and her comedic talent. And so here, where she has to play like a sleek spy, lady killer,
she kills it.
Yeah, and I think she again very underrated, and she's awesome.
Yeah.
Hugh Grant might be the greatest living actor of our age. First of all,
he's
that
one
guy's voice changes in every movie I see him in.
every time I see him in a movie, like I'm used to like Notting Hill, and
Yeah.
you have a movie like that, and then he got in his trouble.
He reminds me of like British Harrison Ford circa the Jack Ryan years, where like it's just like he's just British and confused all the time. And then he started like not doing those movies and where he's like menacing, and Hugh Grant's great. And he's great in this movie where again he's like a Hollywood producer, I think, or something like that, or an agent or whatever. And but he's like actually brokering a deal for the MacGuffin, and he's menacing without being like a cartoon villain.
Okay, look at him in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, he's great.
He's phenomenal in that. And
right, very similar to here.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like he brought that. Okay, oh, you're a dickbag, and like you're just a whole bag of them.
Right,
and like, but you still kind of like him.
Yeah, he has a very likable charisma for a guy doing bad things.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything he's in, pretty much, I have enjoyed, and I guess I'm just a Hugh Grant fan now.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. So, just really quick, the other guy rounding out the team is this black fella who, again, competent, solid, confident, good. He plays off Jason Statham pretty well, but there's not much more to him than that. So everybody in this movie is delivering solidly. And the plot of it is basically, like I said, there's something got stolen at the beginning of the movie. They're trying to figure out what it is. And then, so a lot of the movie is trying to find the thing that they don't even know what it is just yet. So they not only need to figure out where it might have gone to, but what it is, then what it does, then who's trying to get it. So there's kind of a J.J. Abrams mystery box thing going on.
I thought it was more of a Guy Ritchie got drunk and watched Pulp Fiction.
Kind of. I was actually thinking like a Russian Dolls kind of a thing. It's like, what?
Yeah.
But it kept my interest for the entire length of the movie. I think this thing clocks in at almost 2 hours, and it didn't get bored. I thought there's not a lot of action in this. You got a couple of car chases. Not a lot of Jason Statham kicking, but a little bit, just enough to make the fanboys happy. But I think overall, it's one of those movies where it's really why I wanted to put a focus on it was I don't think anyone knows this movie exists. Because again, it got punted and punted and punted and got buried in the theaters and got thrown on the PVOD, and and nary a deal was made of it. And it's like, no, this is if we're gonna sit here and have a conversation, especially on my podcast, about there are no good movies out there anymore, everything is Marvel, Marvel, Star Wars, tripe. Like, no, there is. Spend $5 and go watch Operation Fortune. You won't be sorry. If you were looking for I can't even say like it's like a man's action movie, because I think if you have a date and you're trying to watch this with if you are of the heterosexual persuasion and you happen to have a female date, I think this is one where both men and women can get something out of it. It's one of those action movies that I think has a general audience appeal. Yeah,
I would completely agree with that, because it's smart. It's fun. It's a Guy Ritchie movie, so there's some sort of element of heist in it.
20 years would have won its weekend in the box office and been a big hit.
Oh, absolutely.
Men and women and children would have come from far and away to see this movie and have been like, "Oh my god, what in what you got 2003? Oh, forget it. Like, this people would have loved this movie.
They still should. They still should.
Yeah,
but,
we said the same thing about Plane earlier this year. It's just like shit's out there, but it gets buried in the morass. Studios don't believe in stuff. A lot of stuff just gets kind of thrown onto streaming with nary a thought about it. And it's if anything comes out of me speaking into the ether on this podcast, it's like, hey, there's good stuff out there. There's stuff beyond murder fucking mystery documentaries, you white bitches. There's stuff beyond Marvel and Star Wars out there. Please spend 5 minutes and look for the good stuff and the Operation stuff.
What the crap?
How was your podcast, Ronnie? I don't know. He started going on to a Nazi-esque rant about white bitches.
I need a hug.
Speaking of I Need a Hug, Guy Ritchie's the cover.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you know how I was saying how Operation Fortune's got this like general audience appeal, and I think there's something for everybody. Then we get to a movie only for men, and a very select few men. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. Let's see, what is this movie about? It's a 2023
What is this movie about?
It's a 2023 action thriller film co-written and produced and directed by Guy Ritchie. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim. Its plot follows John Kinley, a U.S. Army Green Beret sergeant, and Ahmed, his Afghan interpreter, fighting the Taliban. It was theatrically released in the U.S. on April 21st, 2023, and received generally positive reviews from critics and grossed $21 million on a $55 million budget. So this thing did not make money, but it did. It was very well received. It got released the same time as Evil Dead Rise, which won its weekend, if I remember correctly. Chevalier and the wide expansion of Beau is Afraid, which got rave reviews. It's got an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, yada yada yada. And so basically, Jake Gyllenhaal's group is in Afghanistan, and they are their mission, should they choose to accept it, is to find bomb factories made by controlled by the Taliban throughout Afghanistan, and they're not getting great intel. And so they hire an interpreter, and they're like, "You're a translator." No, I'm an interpreter, and some of that means that I have a sense of what's going on around here and can stop you from going directly into traps. And he does so twice. This is a guy who used to, I think, be in the Taliban, but then the Taliban killed his, or he was a Taliban sympathizer. Taliban killed his family, and so he switched sides and joined the U.S. Army, the U.S. military, as an interpreter. And one of the nice things we see him doing is, like, so they come across like an opium den, I think it is. And he's just like, you're not going to find weapons in there. You're not going to like what you see in there, but you're also not going to find weapons. And they go in, and it's one of those where, like, you can do a little bit better with honey than you do vinegar. And so it's like, hey, not every situation requires a hammer. Sometimes, you should offer a carrot. Sometimes a little bit of diplomacy goes a long, long way. And so what he's doing in the beginning of this movie, as he's kind of showing his abilities to kind of read a situation, steer them away from trouble, kind of smooth things over with the local populace who's not in love with the fact the U.S. is there in the first fucking place. And there's a situation where the Taliban got to one of the soldiers in the group who tries to lead them into a trap, and he, sniffs it out and was like, no, this smells funny. And then they avoid the trap. They eventually, his intel and his ability to interpret things is what eventually leads them to an actual bomb factory. But they are then beset by all sides by the Taliban. And his whole unit is fucking annihilated. So then Jake Gyllenhaal and the interpreter go into the wilds of Afghanistan, and Jake Gyllenhaal nearly gets killed. And he is dragged across what amounts to a desert in Afghanistan to fight to safety. And had it not been for Dar Salim's character, he'd have died. And so they are rescued, and the story becomes like folklore. It's like, how did these two misfits, one of them is half dead, manage to avoid the entire fucking Taliban in Afghanistan, in broad daylight, essentially? And so, like, oh my God, there's hope. Like, the Taliban's not in love with this story, and they're like, we got to kill these people before people start to think like we can be defeated, because that's like half of our rap is intimidating people into fear, into following along. Right. So Jake Gyllenhaal goes home, and part of like the gig with being an interpreter is you get visas, and you get shepherded to America to start over again. And so he goes into hiding because now he's like Taliban enemy number one. So Jake Gyllenhaal's like, hey, remember when we made promises? See if this sounds familiar. So remember when we made promises to people? Well, people saved me in Afghanistan, and now people need their visa. We need to fulfill our promises. And the U.S. government's like, I understand. There's a line forms to the left, and goes out the door and into China. Like, what the fuck? Like, and so that this whole like second, like, middle part of the movie that just deals with like the frustration of injustice and red tape. And shit, Ronnie, it's my favorite part of the movie. Like, I'm not even joking about that. It is my favorite part of the movie because it's the most. Dude, like, I'm not a soldier. And while I appreciate the soldier's duty and I respect it, I can't relate on a personal level. I've never been in combat. Worst that's happened to me is I've had a gun pulled on me once or twice, dealing with drug dealers and whatnot, in the wilds of social war. I've had an interesting life. I have been in not so great situations, but I've never been in active combat. No one's ever shot at.
Right. I'm not, not now, but one day you might want to.
Waved a gun around, sure, but like now, shot at me, and worst ever happened is like I went and played paintball with my friends one time and managed to shoot them all in the back.
That reminds me. I was playing airsoft. A real quick story. We were playing airsoft and we were waiting on a field, and it was a paintball field. So all the paintballers got presents, which was fine by us, but we were just sitting there waiting. And all the paintballers started making fun of us, and this one guy was out there like he was in his cut off muscle shirt and his basketball shorts. We were like, man, you're gonna get torn up. And his girlfriend was out there, and she was nervous and shaking. Okay, when the horn sounds, you're on me, and you just follow behind me. You just keep shooting forward. You don't stop. And he's yelling at her, and she's like, okay. And as soon as that air horn sounded, boom, just shot him from ankle to the back of the head.
Nice, just doused him in
all
pain,
the way up. And by accident, she screamed and did it, and he was like, "What's crap?" And I was like, "Oh, we were, yeah." But anyway, so I'm used to like, okay, so there's movies that are just straight up, you know what they are, like Brothers with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
And there's, they come home from the tours and they have PTSD and they had trouble, they just have trouble and everything. That's what it's going to be about.
Right.
This switches gears so fast in the middle of it. I was like, I thought this was going to be like.
I was going to say, it's really about like Jake Gyllenhaal's character kind of coming to pieces over the guilt and frustration about his government not honoring their promise. I mean, like, this is a big deal. Because here's the thing. A man is nothing unless his word is bond. And when your word is shit,
Brothers is
how is anyone ever able to trust you? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I forgot Jake Gyllenhaal was in Brothers too, with Tobey Maguire.
So my point being, like, this whole operation sort of hinges on the Afghans' ability to trust the American government to do right by them. And Jake Gyllenhaal knows that. And by the way, had this guy not... Look, this guy could have left him to die.
Yeah.
And just been like, just gone about his... Like, oh no, the white man got killed. C'est la vie. Like, made his way back to the base and, no harm about. Like, oh, sorry, I lost Sergeant. But instead, he did the honorable thing. He did the right thing. And, like, I'm a huge fan of you do the right thing even if you are not personally going to gain from it. Right is right. And he absolutely did the right thing. And so Jake Gyllenhaal knows all of that. And it's like, on top of the trauma of war, on top of the trauma of almost dying, he's also like beset by guilt. Like, I owe this man my life. My kids still have a father. My wife still has a husband, for what that's worth. Sorry, having some struggles these days.
Yeah.
And and so we need to do right by him, and the government's like, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So this all leads to the third act of the movie, where basically Jake Gyllenhaal has to like partner up with a mercenary group to go back into Afghanistan. Oh, and by the way, it's like a month and a half later. So God only knows where he's in. He's gone into hiding. He's gone underground. Underground in the caves of Afghanistan, if you can believe it. And there's like, okay, well, we got to find him. We got to get him and his family out of there, like his wife and his baby. And then, by the way, my favorite line in this entire movie is, "How are you going to run a background check? It's an infant."
I forgot about that.
I read a book years ago. I referenced this a bunch on this podcast over the years, but the death of common sense, and fucking that is a real thing.
No doubt.
In any case, so yeah, he has to partner up with his mercenary group to go back in there, find him, get him. Oh, by the way, the government still has to get his visas, and they got to usher him onto a plane and get him the fuck out of Afghanistan. And so that's the whole third act of the movie. Not the crowd pleaser Operation Fortune is, but if you like a gritty war drama, and I think, again, I've just in a little bit of my description, I think that speaks to very real concerns, very real issues, very, very, very real things that I think everyday people can if you can't relate to the actual story, you can at least relate to the idea of of a government agency not doing the right thing and the utter frustration of trying to do something and being stopped on all sides by just the intransigent nature of bureaucracy.
I think this would be more labeled a political drama.
You think so?
I think so.
What
Like the war part of it is like you know, the first half of it is your war movie. You know, I mean, even like I would go as far as to even say that like your movies like Apocalypse Now and a couple others to be
Platoon, Full Metal Jacket.
Platoon, yeah, Full Metal Jacket. They're all political war movies. So this one falls into that category as well.
Okay,
because it's definitely making a.
Are you drawing a distinction between I was gonna say, you're drawing a distinction between a movie that features military fighting but has a message versus something that just sort of shows blanketly, sort of objectively, what fighting looks like?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
I get what you're saying now.
So yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like Bridge Over the River Kwai, things like that. Those are war movies. Your activist, your political statement, along with the violence of war and everything else, like Platoon, like what was the one with Michael J. Fox in it?
Not Hamburger Hill, but I know which one you're talking about.
It's so good, so good. Those are all political war movies because they have a message in it, and this one does too. Yeah. Whether you agree with it or not or whatever, it is a message that needs to be heard, and so it's, you know, there's a difference. There's a stark difference between the two, and this is where that falls. That's why I'm saying this reminds me that falls into that category of like it should be shown with Apocalypse Now, and Platoon and Full Metal Jacket and shoot, why can't we remember the name of that movie? Daggone it.
I'll look it up.
Whatever it is, it's there. But yeah, yeah. Thanks, Ronnie. That was insightful. It's not The Frighteners.
Just keep going. I will yell it at you when I find it. Casualties of War.
Well, Casualties of War. Yes, phenomenal movie. So when I think of those, I mean, like you could show, like have a movie marathon of just those movies. I mean, like if you hated life and didn't want to walk out of the movie theater afterwards without.
If you're looking for a depressing afternoon.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like the only way it would make it worse is if it was raining and you walked out into it. But
someone killed a puppy.
Right. Somebody comes up and stabs you in the back and takes your wallet. You're like, okay, yeah, that tracks. But it's just one of those movies that just when you look at war movies, you look at army movies, you look at like you know, what makes the grass grow, blood, sir, blood, you know, all this stuff. But you expect it to be like adrenaline pumping, you know, action movies, things exploding and all that. But it makes you think. You don't want to think. You just want things to blow up, you know. But, you know, sometimes you need that.
I like to think. Yes, I enjoy movies that make me think. Yeah, I really like The Covenant. I like The Covenant. I like the political drama. And that's why I said like that middle section. I wasn't going into The Covenant like needing it to be like a big bombastic war movie, especially when I watched it right after Operation Fortune. Like, I kind of need a break here. So like that middle section where he's just sort of drinking and yelling at his wife and like screaming at people on the phone. Like, good God, I've been there. Been there recently, as a matter of fact. Like, just trying to get shit done. Like, I just need someone to listen to me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the action sequences themselves, like especially like that third act where he's trying to get him out of there, there's a palpable level of tension. And I do want to draw attention to something because because again, we live in the year of our Lord 2023 with modern Hollywood, and you know, modern Hollywood afraid to make anyone who's not a white man, like the villain of your movie. And this movie does not shy away from, hey, the Taliban sucks.
Right.
You know, it is this tricky situation in Afghanistan, just like it was in Vietnam. Sometimes we don't know who our friends are. Sometimes we, think that people that we think are our friends are not our friends, or they turn on us, and it's not great when everybody you're looking at could possibly kill you. Right. And the movie doesn't shy away from that aspect. But the other thing it doesn't shy away from, and I mentioned this recently on a different podcast, but like I saw a comedian talk about, the whole gun control debate and how, people just like, well, we need to hold the false narrative of we need to hold on to our guns just in case the American military becomes tyrannical. And it's like, have you seen the American military? And the end of the movie illustrates this perfectly, because you've got Jake Gyllenhaal and you've got the translator, the interpreter, and his wife and the baby. And the baby's not old enough to hold a gun just yet. And, they are just, they're on a bridge. They're on a bridge. There's nowhere to go. They have very little cover. They got Taliban coming out of the woodwork like it's the end of fucking Three Amigos, right? It's just amigos everywhere. And they're all firing machine guns at them. and poor Jake Gyllenhaal is just like, why me? And it's like you could definitely, because again, not a Marvel movie, so they might just die at the end of this thing. You never know.
Right.
The fucking independent Guy Ritchie movie. This could end in like the earth blowing up for all we know. Like, this could absolutely be tragic. And and so you're kind of nail biting at the end of it. You're like, wow, this is like really good tension here. And they do call for backup. Like, there is hope here. And you're just like, will backup arrive in time before Jake Gyllenhaal takes a fucking machine gun bullet to the head? And I have to describe this because, again, it illustrates my point with can we get past that? You're not going to survive an interaction with the military if the military doesn't hold back. So again, they're surrounded by Afghans. They're on a bridge. There's machine guns everywhere. They're going to die any minute now. And the U.S. military sends a plane and flies in low orbit over the bridge and lights up every single one of the Afghans. They're just like one-shotted. Like, we're not like it's not just a sniper rifle, but the accuracy is fucking impressive.
They took that one scene out of the Expendables on the bridge, where they just shot everybody or not on the bridge, but on the
and like they didn't have a chance. They just kind of looked up and like they collectively went, "Oh no!" as they were all murdered on that bridge. And it's not even like fucking Tech 9s and Uzis or whatever just spraying everywhere and God only knows who they hit. Nope, this was wildly accurate from a plane.
Yeah.
Overhead.
Well,
I would like the people in your neighborhood to keep that in mind if they ever decide to go up against the American military. Like, you don't have a chance.
That's true. Yeah.
First of all,
my neighborhood.
Yeah, your neighborhood of North Carolina, where the guns are.
Listen, man. Okay.
All right, Florida. Once every 3 months.
All right, Florida.
Yeah, really. I'm not one to talk. We're reaching people in movie theaters. But I'll let you have the final word here on the Covenant. Like, the ending is great. Like, they get the American military shows up the nick of time and executes every last motherfucking one of them. And they get out, and and there's this whole like ending sequence was like a covenant is a bond, and that's what it was. It was like, I owed you my life, and I made sure I paid you back in spades, and and it crosses racial and religious barriers where a shared experience, we become brothers, and suddenly race and religion no longer matters. And I love that. I love that as an idea. I love that as something to be celebrated. So your thoughts on the Covenant before we move on?
When you first told me about it, I was like, wait, I didn't know Guy Ritchie directed the Leonardo DiCaprio Bear movie.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's The Revenant. Sorry. Yeah. No, I watched this directly after, just like you. I watched it directly after Operation Fortune, and I was just like, it was a struggle. I'm not gonna lie, to keep up with, to get through the middle part and everything. It's like, it's not because it wasn't well acted or well written or well directed or anything. It was just like, oh, I just watched something really fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm an emo kid. I feel so many things right now, and I don't want to.
Let me tell you something, because I know that it's my sense of humor, my personality. I do a little bit of the gay joking kind of a thing. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
rattle it. Why do you have to make everything so sexual? That fucking scene when he's trying to get the target list out of the one military officer, and and they're being overtly sexual with each other. He's just like, do you want it? Yeah. Well, you got to come and get it, big boy. That kind of a thing. It's like only on the first date. Like they're just kind of bantering back and forth, but it's so gay. I was like, see, I'm not the only one.
Vindication.
I have been vindicated.
No, you're definitely not the only one. It's military locker room, whatever.
All right.
But yeah, no. It's a good movie. It really is. It's a sleeper of a movie that probably nobody knows about other than us, and Guy Ritchie himself.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's worth a watch. I mean, don't go in expecting sunshine and roses. That's for sure. But it's definitely worth a watch. It's good.
Okay. All right, and rounding out our trio is Snatch.
My favorite.
Snatch is a 2000 crime comedy written and directed by Guy Ritchie, featuring an ensemble cast set in London criminal underworld. The film contains two intertwined plots, one dealing with a search for a stolen diamond, the other with a small-time boxing promoter played by Jason Statham, who isn't kicking anything in this movie, who finds himself under the thumb of a ruthless gangster, who's Alan Ford, who is ready and willing to have his subordinates carry out severe and sadistic acts of violence. The film features an assortment of characters, including Irish traveler One Punch Mickey O'Neill, played by Brad Pitt, referred to as Pikey, Russian arms dealer Boris the Blade Uranov, played by something unpronounceable, professional thief and gambling addict Frankie Four Fingers, Benicio del Toro, doing just a lovely Hasidic Jew. American gangster jeweler Abraham Denovitz, known as Cousin Avi, who's Dennis Farina, small-time crook Saul, Lenny James, and Vinny, Robbie G, getaway driver Tyrone Adi, and bounty hunter Bullet Tooth Tony, Vinny Jones. It is also distinguished by a kinetic direction and editing style, and intricate double plot featuring numerous ironic twists of chance and causality, and a fast pace. The film shares the themes, ideas, and motifs with Ritchie's first film, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. It is also filmed in the same visual style and features many of the same actors, including Vinny Jones, Jason Statham, Jason Fleming, and Alan Ford. All right, Jesse. All right, who are you? Ronnie.
I'm Ronnie.
You're Ronnie. Go ahead and take the lead on this. You lead the discussion. This is your movie.
Okay, so where do I start with this? Let's go with actors. Let's go with acting in it, because we've already talked a little bit about that. You could not ask for a better ensemble cast than this, in my opinion.
It's up there.
I mean, even Vinny Jones is I mean, he's just Vinny Jones in everything he's in. Even when he was the Juggernaut, he's just Vinny Jones, and he just fits in this.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Yeah, sure you are, buddy. Go ahead, bud, somebody. But I mean, like, this is where my love for British snarkiness came from. Because of just the quick-witted, fast dialogue in it, and you got to keep up. And just like I remember when Jason Statham's Tommy, when Turkish and Tommy are walking to the pikey or walking somewhere, and he goes, "What's that in your trousers?" And he goes, "What's that?" And he goes, "My trousers." He goes, "What's that in your trousers?" And he's like, "A gun." And he pulls out like this massive pistol. And he goes, he said something like, he said, "For protection." He goes, "What are you afraid of?" "The Germans." And he just keeps on. I'm just like. Just little things like that, and I'm like, "What did he just say?" And then the whole sausages. How long are those sausages over there? He's like, 2 minutes Turkish. And then he says it's 4 minutes Turkish. He goes, "It was 2 minutes 4 minutes ago, and now you're telling me it's 4 more minutes." And it's just like I said, just the dialogue, the acting, the quick, the smash cuts, everything about it is just one of those things where, like, to me, there's nothing to not enjoy. And now the plot, as far as it goes, is another one of those plate of spaghetti plots that ends up pretty neat in the end. With boxing and jewel thievery and Frankie Four Fingers not being able to speak English. Yeah, he can. I mean, he can, but it's just one of those things where like I can't understand half the accents in it half the time. And then this was also when I bought this DVD, I noticed there was something special about it when it said pikey subtitles. So
Yeah,
I said pikey subtitles, and then I got to. So pikey, I don't know if it's a proper term anymore or what, because we know that honestly, gypsy is not a good term. And people don't. It's not a well-liked term anymore. It's in fact it's considered a bit racist, and I get it, but it is slang. Okay, so pikey also is a slang term which is considered by many to be a slur. Oh, good. I've just been throwing that around. That's good. It is used mainly in the United Kingdom and in Ireland to refer to people who are of the traveler community, a set of ethnocultural groups found primarily in Great Britain and Ireland. So, I mean, it's not. I guess I hate to say the word. Well, it's Romani. Gypsy is a Romani slang, and I guess pikey is the same thing for the United Kingdom. Because they travel in what they call caravans, and they just survive. They just live.
Right.
And it's a mixture of British and Irish that I can hear. Slang, terminology, accent, and everything. And Brad Pitt just nails it, from what I understand. I mean, like, for me, yeah, it sounded great.
Brad Pitt is so funny. It's like, so when you meet Brad Pitt, he ends up in a bare knuckle boxing match in a barn against a guy who's going to be a professional boxer, and Brad Pitt bumps more than Cactus Jack. Like, my God, between Fight Club and so many other movies that he's in where he just takes a beating, and he does it with such like grace and finesse and goodwill and charisma. It's like, I've never seen, outside of professional wrestling, I've never seen someone take a beating more entertainingly than fucking Brad Pitt.
And Brad Pitt's like, yeah, just kick the crap out of me. I'm okay. Let's do this.
Yeah. Like, at one point he gets like thrown headfirst through a fence, and he rolls on his back and then starts like doing, like he's pulling on his knees for stretches.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of really good physical acting from Brad Pitt.
Yeah, he's just phenomenal in it. And then he just knocks it, we'll just leave that where it is. But the whole time, like, when they first introduce themselves to Mickey One Punch, and they're talking about, hey, we need you to fight, we need you to do this, and he tells them that his mom needs a new caravan. Yeah, she needs a new trailer, and he's just going on and on about it. And then you turn on the pikey subtitle. You turn on the subtitle for him, and it has it down, the dialogue down, until it gets to one point where he's describing what she wants in her caravan, and there's just question marks. And it ends with, and she's awfully keen on periwinkle blue. Right. And that's it. And I was just like, holy crap. The only other person I've ever seen do something like that as talented and as quick and as just something flawless like that is when I watched Blood Diamond and Leo DiCaprio spoke in Pidgin English.
I was thinking of actually the Airplane movies where like they're I think it's like
speaking jive.
Yeah, the speaking jive. At one point they say something and it's just question marks that come up like I have no idea what they're saying. It's great. Excuse me, stewardess. I speak jive. Ain't no thing, mama.
Ain't no thing, mama.
I was digging a rap. Anyway, my favorite part of this movie, in terms of like a very Guy Ritchie scene, and it's really funny, is you have the three incompetent robbers. Let's two sequences. One where they go to like rob the bookie place, and there's no money there, and and it's a great thing because again, I'm very keen on things like how you use women in movies, and like let's not keep putting them in positions where they're going to overpower big, strong men. However, this doofus takes his eye off the ball for a second, and a very quick-witted dainty woman, is able to pull a shotgun out of his hand and shoot him. And I'm like, okay, that's believable. That it would believable that woman in that position at that time would do that act. I'm with this. That's very good. That's
Absolutely.
a good use of woman in that scene. But
And the fact that she's not intimidated in the least. And she's just like, no, I'm telling you, there's no money.
Money here. You are boob.
Yeah.
And she's like, you. And
Thanks,
she's like,
Skeletor.
And you're welcome. Till we meet again. And so like, she's pressing the security button, and like the walls are coming up and everything, and it's a really funny sequence. And then they're like trapped in like a booth, and like they fire a gun, and the bullet bounces everywhere and like hits one of them. And finally, somebody walks in. They're just like, "Are you guys okay?" And they just limp out, all defeated. But my other favorite thing is when they're in the car, and they show the scene from 3 different angles, from 3 different perspectives. So you have like you have a situation where somebody lets a cup go out of the car and it hits somebody's windshield, and that car careens off the road, and another guy escapes out of a trunk and gets hit by the black guys. It's great. That whole like sequence, it's a really funny way of showing like how like they talk about like the themes of a Guy Ritchie movie, you know, causality, where an incidental moment causes this domino effect of other things happening.
It's very butterfly effect kind of
thing. So I like that about it. I'm gonna be honest with you, Ronnie, my love. Snatch is okay. If it makes you happy and you're like, oh my god, this is what brought me to Guy Ritchie and this is why I'm here tonight, that's fine, and I'm happy for it. As for me, I think I got to about the 3rd act and I started like making lunch for my kids. Like I just kind of had it on.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, and I realize that. I think I'm just that
clocks in at 102 minutes. It felt like it was 3 hours. Like it's a long. It feels long.
Well, it's just one of those things where, like, at that point in my life, I was into the British scene, I guess you could say.
Sure.
I enjoyed the accents. I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the dialogue, the way the actors interacted with each other. And it was just one of those things that, because it was so much different from what I was being fed from mainstream media and the movie theaters at the time.
Yeah.
And then that's why I fell in love with like Shaun of the Dead and different movies like that, because they just came from a place where I was like, oh, I don't know anything about British cinema or movies or anything.
Right.
So that's why I fell in love with Lock, Stock, and I fell more in love with Snatch. Mainly because, like I said, Snatch is just such in my opinion, such a well laid out movie that it looks like a big mess, but in the end, it all works out because they're all intertwined anyway.
When I was in college, I took a screenwriting class, and they said one of the ways that you should compile your screenplay is write down your scenes on index cards. And then all the scenes you want in the movie, write them down on index cards before you actually sit down to write your screenplay. Figure out what your scenes are, put them in the order that you want them in, mix them up if you need to, figure out. And that's kind of how this movie feels. Like it not that it's compartmentalized, but it definitely, as you said, it's like a plate of spaghetti. It definitely feels like a collection of scenes that eventually come together to form a definitive narrative. But it's a long way to get there. And for a while, the movie feels way disjointed.
Yeah.
Which again, if that works for you, that's fine. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I can only do so much of that. And then I think again, I watch these 3 movies in a fucking row. So like
that was your problem right there.
Yeah,
I think
I
mechanical.
Yeah, I think I watched
lifting the hood going, I'm sorry, dude. We keep interrupting each other. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, no, it's a lively conversation, and I'd rather just be conversational than stilted.
Oh, absolutely.
But I was gonna say, I think I watched Operation Fortune and like The Covenant in one day, and I watched Snatch I watched Snatch on Sunday.
That's still too much.
Yeah, it's a lot of Guy Ritchie.
Too much Guy Ritchie. I mean, honestly, you should have broken it up over 3 months, but even Guy Ritchie would be like, no, that's too much meat, dude. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's slow down. Maybe break this up a bit. Anyway, I'm gonna give my final thoughts on Snatch, and then I'll give you the last word.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the movie well enough. I get the appeal, especially for film bros. It's got some nice gritty violence, some really snarky comments, some good action, good fun action that guys want. It's a very guys movie. Like, as I was saying, Operation Fortune is more of a general crowd pleaser. I don't see any girl ever liking Snatch. This is a neckbeardy kind of a movie.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Like if you ever like that one girl out of 100, like I'm a guy's girl. I like guy stuff. Okay, maybe that chick, but that's the kind of chick you also want to kick down a flight of stairs.
I'm not wrong there. Yeah, true.
Yeah, come on, I speak the truth.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So, but as far as like, but they said as far as like the kind of movie that like guys watch and girls like, ugh, I don't want to watch this. This Snatch is very much that kind of movie.
It's very much that movie. Yeah, absolutely. I you know, my past relationship recently, I'm going through my favorite movies going, oh gosh, she would never watch that. Yeah, so
I know a couple of girls like if I were to sit down and be like, hey, I gotta watch these movies for a podcast, will you watch these with me? The only one I could conceivably show any of the girls I know is Operation Fortune. There's no fucking way any of the broads I know are gonna sit down and watch. First of all, 20 minutes into Snatch, and they're just like, I'm gonna go on Facebook dating and find another boyfriend. And you know, and kind of the same thing with The Covenant, where it's just like, this isn't really my thing.
Yeah. So I mean, shoot, I can't even. Never mind. I was gonna say, I couldn't even show my last girlfriend, The Princess Bride, but
that's your first problem right there. There's no reason. There's no excuse for that.
Right. So boom, done.
Right. Any other thoughts here on Snatch before we go?
No, if you're looking for the quintessential Guy Ritchie movie, this is it. I think even more so than Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I just think that this
would
is.
You say
sort
of a final thing is like if someone's like, "What is the quintessential Guy Ritchie style?" Would you show them Snatch as like
Snatch? Absolutely, over top of everything. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it opened me up to a whole world of his stuff, and then even then, it was just like, wow, this is incredible. Oh, not so much there, but okay, yeah, we're back again. Yay! Yeah, kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
So,
all right, folks. So that is our survey of 3 Guy Ritchie movies, or focus on Guy Ritchie for this triple feature: Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, and Ronnie Adams' Snatch. So
that sounds weird.
Yeah. Hi, welcome to my show. Tomorrow on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, Jason Teasley, the Protocol son, he will be joining me for an on trial, and Sean and I had this this whole list of movies that we were going to do. We're going to start doing on trial like civil court shows where it was going to be like the original versus the remake, and then I became social and I threw everybody off the network. I still like the idea though, and when I heard they were remaking White Men Can't Jump, I'm like, oh, this would be a perfect. Instead of like making Robert sit through that, it'd be like I would love to talk about the original White Men Can't Jump, and it's like I don't want to do like an on trial for the original and like a damn you Hollywood for the new one, because anything involving that would have involved like a mass suicide. So instead, I was like, hey, why don't we just do it in one show, save time, space, and energy, and Robert's sanity, and I'll have Jason come on because he'll review anything. And we both love the original White Men Can't Jump. This new one's a goddamn travesty against film. So we're going to compare those tomorrow.
Yay!
We're going to do that one. We're going to do an on-trial civil court edition, the original White Men Can't Jump versus the remake that's currently on Hulu. And that is what's happening this week. We were supposed to do A Long Road to Ruin for Men in Black a month or two ago, but Sean slept through it. So this is his second opportunity, his second at-bat. And if he fucking whiffs here and falls asleep, then we're not doing it anymore. So
I just want to say, I expect everybody to. I mean, like, if I don't get to listen to it, hey, how did Mark's White Man Can't Jump show go? Well, the first half it was a glowing review, and the second half was just him screaming incoherently.
Why was he screaming as like a stream of racial obscenities? He really liked the original.
He really liked the original a lot.
Anywho, so yes, this Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time, Sean and I will be reviewing the Men in Black trilogy. Just the first 3 movies. We actually did a Damn You Hollywood for the one with Chris Hemsworth and Valkyrie, so whoever her name is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we're doing this week. Last week, I just had the one show because I went naked swimming on the night that I would have normally done podcasting. So instead, naked swimming. You should try it. We also call it skinny dipping, but that's all of the issue here. So last week, speaking of naked people, Jesse and I reviewed season 1 of The Deuce, the David Simon show about the rise of the porn industry and the cleaning up.
Yeah,
it's a great show. You should watch it with your children. All right.
Nope.
That's what's going on here. I'm at Mark Radulich on Twitter and TikTok. Ronnie Adams, show us where you piss from.
Whoa. That caught me off guard. I will just let you know where I'm at. I'm very active on TikTok and Instagram. Not real super active right now, but getting better. It's both of them are at Misfits and Miscreants. I am a dungeon master, world-class game master.
That's right. For all of you that are into impact play, come see Ronnie, and he will show you his great leatherware.
I don't know what that is. I'm a good boy.
Ronnie Adams from the BDSM kink community.
This is actually Ronnie Adams from the tabletop role-playing community. I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons, my friends. That is what I do, not anything that Mark says. Because Mark is a deviant, and I'm a good boy.
I walk with Jesus. Thank you very much.
So anyway,
I've never seen someone literally joke on their words.
Oh my gosh. So I do a lot of. I have recently switched venues as far as where I do my game mastering, dungeon mastering. I am now at a place called Multiverse of Burlington in Burlington, North Carolina. If you're anywhere near there, come see me on Saturdays. I do my dungeon mastering there. Great store, great people. Got to give them a little shout out here because they are it's just a fantastic place to be. As far as that goes, I do have a Twitch channel. I'm starting to open that back up. And I'm going to be doing some Dungeon Master tips. I'm going to be doing like a little bit of streaming of Baldur's Gate 3 as soon as I get it. Things like that. So that is also Misfits and Miscreants. You should come out and check it out. But coming soon, I am starting a new D&D game, Dungeons and Dragons game with a new group. And we are starting a game called Curse of Strahd just in time for Halloween. But it's one of those long-standing campaigns that we're actually turning into a live play podcast. So an actual play podcast, I should say. So we'll be audio recording those sessions and turning them into, I'm going to be opening up the Screaming Boy podcasts once again, but I think we're going to go through a little bit of rebranding on that. And we will be doing an actual play podcast of the Curse of Strahd. So be on the lookout for that. So we'll be doing that soon. And that is where I live.
All right, Ronnie Adams. Let's see. When are you going to be back? Okay. October 2nd. This is the podcast I keep moving around on you. Ronnie Adams, I think I owed you a favor or some shit. So we're doing The Legend of Vox Machina Season 2. And we're doing that Monday. We're doing Monday, October 2nd.
Let me stand up on the table so you can just speed bag me in the nuts next time.
And then he turned on the buzzsaw. And then like many moons ago, we did Sweet Tooth Season 1. And then I was social and I took a break from everyone. But now I'm kind of back to more consistently podcasting. Still only going 1 or 2 nights a week, but trying to rotate all my friends in here so that people don't think I forget about them. So we're going to do Sweet Tooth Season 2 of the Netflix show. And then when we're done with From the Corner to the Deuce, Ronnie Adams is getting back into the band with me and Jesse. And we're going to start our monthly review of the show, Sons of Anarchy. And we're going to start that January 15th. Also in January, we're going to be, Ronnie Adams and I are going to be doing a Nicolas Cage focus. We're going to be looking at The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Bringing Out the Dead, and Face Off because Ronnie insisted.
Because it's the best Nick Cage movie ever.
If you say so, honey. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us here on Triple Feature. That's Ronnie. I'm a pain in the ass. Be well, be safe, and behave.
You're my pain in the ass.